Ladies and gentlemen here in the council chambers, welcome. And for those who are dialing in remotely, also welcome to the Monday, February 5th, 2024 meeting of the San Carlos Planning and Transportation Commission. We have no commission members dialing in remotely. And we'll check on our roll here in a minute. So with that, would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, Lisa, please.
Commissioner Castaneda.
Present.
Commissioner Garvey is out ill this evening, so she will be excused. Commissioner Roof.
Present.
And Vice Chair Clemens is also out this evening, not well, and she will be excused. Chair Iacopone.
Present. Very good. Our item number 5 is approval of minutes from the January 16th Planning and Transportation Commission meeting. Colleagues, corrections you'd like to put forward?
I do have one that I would like to propose, which is on the minutes, page 4, in the commissioner comment section. I referred to making some studies available, and I thought it would be useful to include the specific studies that I mentioned, which were, so to replace the words underlying study with the words underlying creek, traffic, and retail studies, because I felt it was important to have those be posted as a resource as we move forward on the Northeast area plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Roof. Commissioner Castaneda? Very good. And I have one request, please. The bottom of packet page 5, my comment was regarding urging city staff and consultant team to create enough optionality in this region as it's written. I'd like to just elaborate a bit. In this region for stormwater storage and drainage to accommodate future development choices over time. So just a couple of added words, and I've jotted these down for you, Lisa. Thank you. And with that, I'm complete. Motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes of January 16th.
I second the motion.
And thank you. And as amended, roll call, please.
Commissioner Castaneda.
Yes.
Commissioner Roof.
Yes.
And Chair Iacopone.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. So we're now into the public hearing portion of our evening. The procedure for public hearing is that staff will present a report on the history, physical features, et cetera, on the application, followed with staff's recommendations. The applicant will make a presentation. Thereafter, interested members of the community may speak on the proposal. When all interested parties have had an opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed and no further discussion from the floor can be held. The commission will then consider the evidence and make its recommendation. If you challenge a public hearing item in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this notice, the public notice, or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Speakers should fill out a speaker's form found by the door. Looks like one of these, and they're back there. And hand it to the recording secretary prior to addressing the commission. The speaker should come up to the microphone and speak since the meeting is being recorded. And If you introduce yourself, that will assist staff in preparing the minutes for the evening. The first item on our agenda for public hearing is the development proposed at 308 and 310 Phillips. I'll read the text here in just one moment, but just as a reminder to my colleagues, we have, to my count, 10 items that we're being asked to say that we've been presented the information for and agree with that the findings are represented in our deliberations here this evening. This is a public hearing to consider approving design review, conditional use permit, below market rate housing plan, protected tree removal, natural state reduction, tentative subdivision map, dirt haul and grading certificate, and adopting resolutions recommending the City Council adopt an initial study mitigated negative declaration and approving a general plan amendment and an ordinance for a zoning amendment to rezone the project from RS3 single-family low density to RS6 single-family within the Hillside Overlay District for 9 single-family homes, APNs 049-292-050, 049-292-040, and 049-292-060. And with that introduction, presentation, please.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm Tricia Stevens. I'm a consulting planner working on behalf of the city, and I will be presenting this evening. So you know what the request is. I won't repeat what you just said in terms of all the entitlements, but just to note that the design review and conditional use permit, so forth, is action item for your commission, and the initial study mitigated neg deck and general plan amendment and zoning amendment are recommendations to the city council. This slide shows the applicant team. They will be making a presentation right after myself, and they will be available to answer any questions. The project is located off Phelps Road, north of San Carlos Avenue. It's surrounded on the northwest by Arguello Park, and then to the southwest is the Annandale Elementary School, and then there's single-family homes to the north and to the east along Spring Valley Way and Highland Drive and so forth. And the map on your right shows the existing zoning and the surrounding zoning. I'm going to give a brief overview of the project components, and then I'll go into a little more detail later on, but I just want to do like a quick overview here. The parcel size is 3.12 acres, and the existing general plan and zoning allows for 3 dwelling units per acre, and the proposal is to go to 6, and it's in a hillside overlay zone. There were 2 homes on the project that were demolished due to fires and hazards. The proposal is for 9 single-family homes. 7 of the units are small lot subdivision development, which means that the lots are less than 6,000 square feet in size. 2 of the lots are between 40,000 and 48,000 square feet, the ones at the top of the hill. 8 of the units have accessory dwelling units. Those ADUs are 389 to 749 square feet in size, and there is 1 affordable unit that'll be dedicated for households with moderate incomes, and that's lot 8. There's 41 parking spaces, and that includes 5 guest spaces, and there's a little over 3,700 square feet of open space, and the proposed density is 2.99 dwelling units per acre. And just The private drives are off Phelps Road and off Spring Valley Way. And then a very important part of the project is the emergency vehicle access that runs north from the property through Arguello Park. And this will be a paved access for emergency vehicles only. There would be 23 protected trees that will be removed, 20 of which are on site and 3 of them that are in conjunction with the emergency access. And the applicants would plant 29 new native trees to replace the removed protected trees. And in terms of cut and fill, there would be a total of almost 11,000 cubic yards removed from the site. And because of the grading, there is a request to reduce the natural state requirements. And I'll go into that in a little more detail. And the dirt haul route is via Phelps Road, then to San Carlos Avenue, and then to Ralston. Does the pointer work? Okay. So this is the site plan. On your bottom is the extension of Spring Valley Way that goes into the project, and there's 6 of the lots that come off the end of Spring Valley Way. At the top of the screen is lots 1 and 2, which are on the larger lots. And a lot of that has to do with grading and the rock outcroppings. And then there's lots 3 through 9 are the small lot development ones, where they're the lot sizes and the home sizes are smaller. And then on your left is where there's be a private drive coming in off Phelps Road. And then the darker green at various spots through the project on the west side and then on the south side would be bio retention basins. I have a couple of renderings here of the project. This is lots 1 and 2, kind of looking up the hill to the north. And this is lots 8 and 9, including the affordable unit looking from Phelps Road. And again, these are the project entitlements. I'm not going to read through those again. I think we've gone through those. I wanted to point out the scope of the Commission review. This is a project under state density bonus law and the Housing Accountability Act because they're providing 1 below market rate unit, which is 15% under the old ordinance. However, the project is not requesting any density bonus or concession or waivers, but it still comes under the umbrella of the Housing Accountability Act, and thus the scope of the Commission's review is you can only deny it if there's specific adverse impacts based on objective and written standards that were in effect when the application was deemed complete. And that's important to know, is that the application was deemed to complete on July 20th, 2023, and so it was those standards that were in effect at that point in time. And also a consideration is if there's no feasible way to mitigate or avoid any environmental impacts. Just as a little background, the City Council corrected the general plan for this site in May 2023 from open space to 3 dwelling units per acre, and that was due to prior mapping area errors, and that was along with other corrections in the vicinity. The reason for the request to go to 6 dwelling units per acre, both the general plan and the zoning, is because the RS6 zone is needed in order to do a small lot development. Under the RS3 zone, that is not permitted, even though the density is just under 3 dwelling units per acre. In staff's view, the request to go to 6 dwelling units per acre is consistent with the surrounding residents. And we feel that it complies with the general plan policy in that it has pedestrian-friendly elements, including, and very importantly, enhanced pedestrian and bicycle access through Arguella Park, and that access doesn't really exist now because the property isn't developed, but with development of the property and the access through the park, pedestrian and bicycle access will be enhanced, even though it would not be for vehicle access at all. Very importantly, the site is identified as an opportunity site in the housing element, and it helps meet the city goals for providing a variety of housing types. Similarly, the request to go to the RS6 zone is consistent with the zoning of the surrounding area. And as outlined in the staff report and the findings before you, the project complies with all the zoning, hillside overlay, and small lot subdivision development standards, with one exception that I'll talk about later, and that's the natural state reduction. In staff's opinion, the project complies with the design review findings in that it's compatible with neighboring development and it respects the existing topography. The proposed architecture is contemporary in style. It recalls a mid-century style. I think the applicant will go into a little more detail on what the colors and materials are, and I'll let them use the architect speak on that. But staff finds that it's very well articulated and meets the design review findings. In terms of landscaping, it uses drought tolerant and fire resistant plants, and very important to note that the eucalyptus trees there would be removed because they're a hazard, and then a total of 68 new trees will be planted, and the slopes will be planted with native grasses and wildflowers. And if you want to see the landscaping plan, I have it at the end if we wanted to go back to that. This chart summarizes the tree removal and replacement, and these numbers have been difficult to, because it's been kind of a moving target a little bit, but the bottom line is that for on-site, 20 of the protected trees will be removed, and 5 will remain. And then there will be 3 protected trees that will be removed with emergency access because of the need to prune the trees for clearance for emergency for the fire trucks. And the existing trees are primarily small and not in good health and considered to be more of a fire hazard. So with the planting of the new native trees and kind of a refresh of the host site, we feel that the findings for removal of the trees for the protected tree removal permit can be made. And noting that the replacement plan exceeds the city's requirements for replacement, and the conditions of approval will ensure protection of preserved trees. As far as grading, there is a significant amount of grading on the site. So as I mentioned, the project includes a request for a reduction to the natural state requirements. Approximately 60% of the site would need to be left in natural state based on the formula in the hillside overlay zone. And there's about a little over 20% natural state provided. And the grading is needed to meet the fire code requirements for slope of the private drive, and then plus the desire is to kind of recontour the site to be more natural more natural looking. And so staff believes that the proposed grading meets the intent of the hillside ordinance, and there's findings in the findings attachment that outline all the detailed reasons why that grading meets the intent. The grading and recontouring results in around 11,000 cubic yards of dirt hauled off site, and the applicants project that to be about 900 truck trips, and the dirt haul route would use Phelps Road, then turn right onto San Carlos Avenue, then left onto Ralston, and then with an eventual destination of Livermore. This slide provides some photo simulations of views from Phelps Road on the left, and then from Spring Valley Way on the right. While the project would result in a fairly substantial alteration of the existing topography and the removal of the trees, the homes have been designed to fit in with the surrounding neighborhood, and we believe that the photo simulations that have been provided demonstrate that significant views of San Francisco Bay or other vistas have not been obstructed. And so staff believes that the findings for design review related to preservation of views can be made. Per CEQA, per the California Environmental Quality Act, an initial study mitigated negative declaration was prepared. It identified potentially significant impacts related to air quality, biology, cultural resources, geology, and tribal cultural resources. And the mitigation measures that are part of the conditions of approval would mitigate those to a less than significant impact. Many of the mitigation measures are fairly standard ones, but I just wanted to point out a little bit the biological resources in that there were identified impacts related to special status bats and nesting birds, and the San Francisco dusty-footed wood rat. And so the mitigation measures basically call for surveys to be done before construction starts and before the trees are removed. And if there's nests or roosting areas, that they would be either avoided or be relocated. And it outlines in a lot of detail what all those measures would be. And I just wanted to note that the impacts related to the dusty-footed wood rat are only during construction. They're not considered long-term, just they would be just during construction. So the ISMND was circulated in April and May of 2023. We received several comments, and so a response to comments was prepared and released to the public on July 13th, 2023. So I'll go into a little more detail about some of the comments and some of the general themes of what we heard. First of all, there was comments on concern about Spring Valley Way and the impact on the existing residences. As I mentioned, the portion of the Spring Valley Way off-site will remain a public street, and then it will go into a private drive entering the property, and there'll be signage and so forth to note that change. So the grade for the existing driveways on Spring Valley Way would not change, and they would remain the same. And there would be construction along Spring Valley Road related to a new sewer, and the fire hydrant would be relocated. There was some concern that it might be removed, but it's just being relocated. So we feel that the concerns about Spring Valley Way have been addressed. On fire and emergency access, we had a variety of comments on that. A couple folks thought that it was a great idea to pave Sheldon Avenue, which is the lane that goes through Arguello Park, and some were opposed to that. But I think overall, people were most concerned about the existing fire hazards on the site. And in staff's view, the project improves fire safety and fire access, and the access road is necessary for emergency access, and it also provides a way for people in the area to get through and to walk and bike through that area. There's concern about wildlife and the loss of habitat. And yes, the project could affect some of the special status species, bats and nesting birds and so forth that I talked about a minute ago, but we feel that there's mitigation measures in place to address those concerns. And as far as traffic, so just as a reminder, the way the traffic is evaluated is based on vehicle miles traveled. And since the project would have less than 100 trips per day, it's automatically assumed to be less than significant, as it would have 85 trips per day. So and then that includes only 5 trips in the AM peak hour and 6 trips in the PM. So it is felt that the traffic generation and the traffic impacts would be minimal. And there is a traffic management plan that's part of the conditions of approval, and that would address construction traffic and any impacts to the school in that area. And there was also some concerns about the overall density, and that's too much density. And I think in staff's view that the density is actually below what you find in the rest of the area, as it's below 3 dwelling units per acre, and the zoning would be consistent with everything around there. In terms of community outreach, the applicant conducted community meetings, in particular before they even filed their application in November 2018, and have been meeting with the neighbors on an ongoing basis. And then the city has sent out public notices April of 2023 for the environmental document, and then in January for noticing for this hearing. And this slide here outlines the recommended motions for the commission. The first one being approval of the design review and conditional use permit, investing tentative map and small lot development market rate, BMR housing plan, tree removal permit, and so forth. And then the second and third motions would be for recommendations to the city council for the mitigated negative declaration and the general plan amendment and rezone. And so that concludes my presentation. Then next on the agenda would be the applicant's presentation, then commissioner questions, public comments, and then discussion and action. And as I mentioned, this does go on to the City Council for the general plan amendment and zoning ordinance amendment and the CEQA document, which is tentatively scheduled for March the 11th. And so I'm happy to answer any questions or happy to do that later.
Thank you very much. A lot of material to cover, and your combination of your presentation and the packet was helpful. Maybe, unless there's something burning, can I suggest we get the applicant to run through their presentation, and then we can bundle all of our questions together? Good enough? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. John Lum, founding principal of John Lum Architecture. So a lot of the material that I'm going to go over was actually covered very thoroughly by your brilliant planner here. So I'll be quick here. So we can, here we go. Yes. Okay, so this goes forward this way. Okay, great. Okay, so of course, this is the development that we're looking at, and there are 9 homes that are being proposed here. Tricia went over the concept that the actual zoning is being changed to match the existing zoning of the surrounding neighborhood. And the reason, I didn't want that to happen. And the reason why we did this was because due to the steepness of the slope, we needed to we wanted to cluster the homes together. And so by going to be able to take advantage of the small lot development consistent with the general plan, we went to the higher zoning there. But as she pointed out, the zoning is almost equates to the former zoning, which is RS3. This keeps on moving without my, okay, I'll just be very, very quick then. So it is, let's say, the density, yes, that's what I wanted to cover here. So the next slide shows basically the development from a kind of a bird's eye perspective. You can see Phelps Road on the left and the Spring Valley Way on the right, and the private road that's going up to connect to Sheldon. And then the houses we've numbered them. 1 is at the top, 2, those are the larger lots, and then 3, 4, 5 are identical homes. 6, sorry about this, it keeps on moving. 6, 7, and 9 are identical, and 8 would be the below market rate housing project. There are 4 spaces per house, and there are additionally 5 guest parking spaces with a total of 41 total spaces here. Go to the next slide here. We designed the houses to maximize the privacy from from each individual home. So as you can see, we've shown these arrows that show kind of the views over the homes here. And we were very also careful to think about the neighbors and focus the homes 7, 6, and 8, and 9, so they weren't intruding into the privacy of the adjacent neighbors there. The design is, as we call it, contemporary ranch with a mid-century sprinklering, I guess one would say. We were trying to match the adjacent houses, which are all basically ranch-style homes, all built kind of the mid-century 50s and 60s. So there's some 70s influences. And the house sizes are also similar in size, except for the top 2, which are considered more of the custom homes. So these are all 3, 4-bedroom homes. All of them have ADUs except for lot number 8, which is the below market rate house. And this is pretty remarkable that it's going to be adding 17 units to your arena goals. This is the view from Spring Valley Way, and just wanted to state that I know there's a lot of concerns about fire, especially in this hillside neighborhoods. These are being built to the current WUI standards, which require, gyp sheathing on the outside of the buildings, tempered glass, So fire-resistant building materials, non-vented or vents and roofs that prevent ashes from going into the cavities there. The buildings are all fully sprinklered, and then the landscaping plan has been created to give a good defensible space. And of course, with all the removal of the 100-plus eucalyptus trees, the site will definitely be a lot safer from a standpoint of wild fires. This is a view from Phelps Road. And the houses also, even though the REACH codes or the all-electric homes were suspended by, I believe, the Supreme Court, the developer is still wanting to go with an all-electric homes. All the homes will have solar photovoltaic panels, and they'll also have 2 EV chargers per home. There is a bioretention area that Jim here will speak about. All the landscaping is designed to be low irrigation, drought-tolerant landscaping, focusing on natives. And this is a view from Wellington Drive that shows the homes in the distance there. They are designed to blend into the hillside. We chose neutral and natural materials. There's this wonderful rock, this is now going, okay, sorry. There's a wonderful rock formation that we're retaining. It's been, we have used low retaining walls that are hidden with landscaping. This is the material palette that shows natural wood and fiber cement siding, cement plaster, board form concrete, metal siding and roofs, and natural stone. So the goal is to create or use materials that will weather and high quality materials that don't require a lot of maintenance. This is our site plan, the landscape plan that is very weirdly distorted. Sorry about that. But the landscape architect who I'll present her work, all the eucalyptus trees will be cleared. There will be 5 protected trees remaining. Of the 68 new trees, 28 new native oak trees will be installed. There will be native grasses, wildflowers, native oaks, bioretention planting, and again, low water use, drought tolerant materials. And also natives tend to be more fire resistant than invasive species. And then here is the landscape color palette that, I see this got flipped. So I'm sorry about this, but in essence, okay. In essence, the materials, there's a thematic design to the landscape. So there is from the houses to oak grasslands, which a majority of the hillside is, and then there's a restoration of an oak woodland, which you would find the understory, which would be also native plants here. So this is inhabited by a poltergeist, I think. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be available for answers here.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim Toby with Lee & Braids Engineering, and I think this PowerPoint's on a timer, which is why it's flipping so fast on us here, so I guess I better talk very fast here. But thank you guys for considering the project today. As you probably have heard, we put a tremendous amount of effort into this project over several years. I think we've had meetings with at least a dozen meetings with the fire department. We've had so many meetings, we've outlasted the previous fire marshal. We ended up having to have a new fire marshal come on board because he retired. Nonetheless, we're here to present to you a little bit more information. I know fire is one big thing, and I want to give you a little more information about the fire road that's being presented here. So as the screenshot, we'll kind of just go through a little bit. We're going to provide a fire road through Arguello Park. The idea is to provide new access for fire department. As you probably know, they've gone ahead and the fire department has actually had a fire up there within the last couple of years. And they had to use Sheldon Avenue and go through Arguello on this pretty narrow dirt road. Fire department definitely wants to see this improved, and I think that's unquestionably that's an idea that's a benefit for the community in terms of fire prevention and making sure there's access here. The idea of the fire road will be that it acts as a fire break. It's going to make sure that all these the actual road itself would help prevent some of the fire from skipping onto parts of the road. Sorry, I have to keep doing this to keep this up with the thing here. But the idea is we're going to remove a tremendous amount of the large eucalyptus trees. These eucalyptus trees are very, very big fire danger. On top of that, they're very much in danger of falling over. They're so huge, they're hundreds of feet tall, they could fall onto the houses that are there now. So I think it's in everybody's best interest to remove those trees. The city is definitely responsive to removing those trees. In fact, almost every city in the peninsula approves that. Some cities actually will pay you to remove their eucalyptus trees. Obviously, as John had said, that the buildings that were being proposed are going to be built to the most modern standards for fire prevention, sprinklers and everything. And we're going to be providing many new fire hydrants on this site. So fire prevention is going to be very much a thing on our mind that we're trying to move and show. As you can see here, the yellow is the new roads that were being proposed on this site. And a couple blue dots, those are the brand new fire hydrants that are being presented here tonight. Again, we're trying to add more benefit to the community in terms of fire prevention and keep a fire road that's going to be safe. So this kind of snakish looking road right here, the reason it looks like that is so we can actually get up to that fire road and connect the two roads together, the existing fire road in Arguello Park and the existing road on Spring Valley. In order to meet the fire trucks standards for how steep that road needs to be, we had to give it length. And that's kind of one of the main reasons you see here why it snakes around so much. And that's why we have to do a fair amount of grading on the site in order to make this road work. That is really the defining factor is the grading of the grading is to accommodate this road and provide that access that fire so desperately wants to have. So a little bit more information on that fire road. As you know right now, it is currently a dirt fire road through Arguello Park. It's going to be vastly improved, this road, to help remove fire danger. This road will still be open to the public for basically recreational use, walking and everything, and be able to ride bicycles and stuff, but it will not be accessible to public cars. It'll be accessible to only city staff who are maintaining it for parks and for emergency vehicles. It will not be a through and through road, even though it may look like it is. Our whole idea here is to provide, it is kind of a dead-end road for normal cars. So. The new road will be wider. It'll be much more accommodating for the fire trucks. It'll also be have environmental impact in the fact that it'll provide new bioretention areas, which is a way we treat stormwater nowadays. It's a very natural way we treat stormwater. It's something that allows water that's collected on that road. This is the yellow road here is what we're talking about is the upgraded road. The red road is the new road we're putting in as part of the development. As part of this, we're going to be doing all this work that will actually collect stormwater, put it through a treatment system. All the houses that are up on Highland Road, any of the pollution that might come from those houses for whatever reason, would come down onto the new yellow portion of the road. That stormwater will be treated. That way it'll provide a benefit for the environment as we go forward, as will everything on our development be treated as well. So grading, as we said before, the vast majority of the site will be clear of trees, but almost all these trees, I think 85% of the trees are eucalyptus trees. I mean, they are really need to go. They're a very huge fire danger. So the grading will only be done during the dry season. It'll be scheduled during working hours and be scheduled around school and commute schedules. We will do everything in our power to have as little impact on the community as we can during construction hours. So. Overall, the grading that was going to be proposed here will help stabilize this hillside. So I know there's concerns about anything geologically that might be going on in this property. Anything we do there will be the grading will actually now compact the dirt. The buildings themselves will be settled into the ground very well. The roadway will be in there very well. All these types of things that are going to be, it may be a disruption during construction, but when it's all said and done, it's going to be a big bonus to reduce a lot of the hazards that are there now. On top of that, during construction, we're going to have an inspector, a stormwater inspector. It's a requirement of state law to have somebody out there reviewing the construction as it's going on for the environmental impacts. It's grading being done in a way that it's not going to have an impact downstream. Make sure the mud is not running off the stream. Make sure, simple things like trash or even dust during the summer months. All that's going to be reviewed by an independent inspector That's something that state requires anyway, but we would have done something like that very similarly. But just to give a little bit more context to the neighbors, that we're going to be out there and people are going to be monitoring this besides just the city, besides the contractor. It's an independent person who does that, basically. Drainage. Obviously, drainage is a huge concern to everybody. Right now, the vast majority of that water comes down that hillside and goes right onto the neighbors' properties. We're going to collect that stormwater, do it in a very environmentally friendly way. We realize that the storms, just like we're seeing in the last 2 days, are getting more and more intense. We're seeing it, we're feeling it every day. Our new system is being designed to capture those storms. And as I said, the area in green you see right here, those are the areas that we're going to be using as a stormwater treatment, so that before it actually reaches the city storm drain system, it'll be treated and go into, be able to have, you're going to have much cleaner water. And it's a very natural way. It's basically a natural filter where the trees and the plants that are in that bioretention area are the main filter. We just let Mother Nature do her thing, but this is all done through scientific studies of what works and what doesn't work. To give you an idea of how much the storm drainage we are doing, every blue dot you see on this screen right here is a catch basin. We are literally going to capture the stormwater and control it in a way that's going to be as best it can be done. So we're making it very intense so that it won't be negative on either this project or the neighboring surrounding community. So, and as I said, this green area right here, this is an example of something. This is just an example. This won't be the exact one, but this is an example of what we call bioretention area. It looks like a nice, beautiful planted area. Realistically, what it's doing is you're letting that stormwater collect into this area. We're all just realizing that, just like we were taught in first grade, when a tree breathes in carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen, there's nothing better for the environment than just letting Mother Nature do it herself. What I mean by that is, in this particular instance, we let the rainwater collect on top of the surface of this bioretention area. Because it's got very soft, loose, sandy soils, the water percolates straight down. Anything that's trash, even if you are just a really kind, considerate person, everybody has the option of, you open your car door and you don't realize the Starbucks wrapper fell out of your car. It just happens at time. Sometimes cars have leaky oils. They fall on the ground. That also gets picked up by the environment. That wrapper would be caught on the top of your bioretention, and just maintenance would be picking it up every once in a while before it ever reaches the storm drain system. Those oils and heavy metals that might get into the water that you can't even see, they're just dissolved solids and stuff. As soon as it goes into the bioretention area, Mother Nature takes care of it. The roots of these plants would absorb those toxins and break them down naturally. What comes out the bottom is a much cleaner solution. So we're controlling the stormwater, we're cleaning the stormwater. So we're trying to make this as very much as environmentally friendly and green as possible, and overall make this project a benefit to the community. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions we have.
Great, thank you, Jim, as well. Commissioners, I, for my part, have jotted down a number of things. So I think let's, maybe we could focus on questions for staff or questions for the project team to clarify the presentation. Let's say a couple questions, we'll go all the way around and then see where we end up, okay? So Commissioner Castaneda.
I do have one question for staff, and that would be, I know, of course, that the housing element identified this area as possible units, and I'd like to know whether the number of units is the same as what we identified in the housing element. Is it comparable?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Castaneda. I'll have to check that information and maybe get back to you, because I don't know off the top of my head about that. But if you can give us some time, we can take a look and get back to that question.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I'd like to know a little bit more, when we look at the slope of the lot, we could have a lot view to see where the greater amount of the slope is. And I'd like to know how that works with reference to where you place that bioswale in that one corner.
Sure. So basically, let's see if I can find a kind of a picture here for you. So if you look at this picture right here, and hopefully it pauses there for a second, you can see there's a lot of lines that are going through this drawing. Each of those lines represent a contour. The top of the hill being up by lot 1 goes down to where the bottom of the bioretention is. As you can see, these lines are close together. They're in a slope that is acceptable to building code, acceptable to the geotechnical engineer. And because they're all parallel and they're running towards that bioretention area, that's the direction of the slope that's going down. So all that water is being collected through various means. It's being collected at the top of the hill where the houses are. In the middle of the slope, you can see below lots 2, 3, and 4, there's some blue dots right there. That's what we call a bench, where the ground is coming down, then it levels out for about 5 to 10 feet, then it goes down again. That bench in the middle is there to capture some stormwater, capture any debris that might going down, and prevents just a way to make that hillside more stable. That we're also putting storm drains in. So again, we're collecting that stormwater at multiple places as it goes down, so that when it does reach that bottom portion right there, that green area for sure, it's being caught in a controlled manner. And everything that we need to do to comply with all the rules and to provide the bioswale in a way that works very well is to put it in this bottom area right here.
And then just a little follow-up to that. Did that influence then the position of this bioswale and the slope? Did that influence the placement of the road?
Absolutely,
right?
it did.
You had to have it.
Yeah, because you want the bioswale at the lowest part of the property, because before that, you want to capture everything on the property. That's why we don't, if you put it at the lowest spot, you don't need to pump it. Of course, we don't want to pump if we can avoid it.
But that would be why you wouldn't also want to bring the road down into that area where the runoff is, too.
It serves twofold. One, it provides a break between the neighbors, and it provides a way for us to put a landscape buffer and for us to put this bioretention where it's the most logical place to place it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Roof?
Thank you. I have one question for staff, which is the extension of Spring Valley Way as a private drive. What's the rationale for this to be a private drive instead of a regular public street like practically everywhere else in San Carlos?
I was trying to get back to the exhibit here. There we go. Oh, this one shows it, I guess. As it goes up the hill, it doesn't really lend itself to being a public street because of the width and the fact that it doesn't really go anyplace. It's not like a through street. I'm not sure what the history of Spring Valley Way is and why that portion is a public street. But I think we felt that it was okay for this portion to be private road because of the hillside and trying to keep it narrow, as narrow as possible, but still meet fire code requirements.
And as a follow-up to that, what are the implications of it being a private road for public pedestrian and bicycle access?
Well, it won't be gated, so pedestrians and bicyclists can get through there. And so they could have access.
So it would be legal for bicycles and pedestrians to be on that road?
Yes.
The main issue that we historically, that our Public Works Department wants these smaller developments to be private is the maintenance issue. They're not, because it's not a through road, it's not part of our circulation system. So having the taxpayers pay to improve a road like this doesn't make a lot of sense for the city. And the homeowners association that is going to be comprised of these 9 homes will be able to take care of it through their reserving over the long haul. Some of our other developments that are like this, it takes well over 20 years for the roads to get to the point where they might need to have some treatment on them. So they do, because they're not being exposed to a lot of traffic, they do tend to last a lot longer.
Thank you. All those answers help. I'll collect my thoughts past the.
Okay, very good.
Collect my thoughts.
Good. I'll try to do just some basic ones. The dirt hall, I guess this is for the project team. The dirt hall, what's the duration of that expected to be? I saw in comments 22 months, but.
No, not for the dirt hall portion of it. It would be more in the order of probably a couple of months to 2 to 4 months, I would imagine. It wouldn't be, the project will be long-term, but the grading part will be done, and it'll be done only during the dry months to do that.
Great. And then you touched on the related question from, let's say, first shovel to last ready for move-in. What do you think in terms of duration?
That's a hard question
What's
to
the
answer.
plan?
I don't know the answer to how the overall duration of that. It's hard to.
Well, so let me explain. What I'm trying to understand is, with all of the activity, what should the residents in the area expect? Should they expect 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
Knowing projects like this, I would say somewhere around 2 years.
Okay.
Just a rough
Good.
guess.
That order of magnitude, thanks. It wasn't any more than that. I think it was mentioned, and I'll do one more and then I'll pass it back to Commissioner Castaneda. In the materials, I thought I read solar ready, and I thought I heard that they were going to be solar equipped from the presentation this evening.
Yes, I believe Clarum Homes has committed to putting on solar panels. But,
Okay, that's different from what's in the packet.
Oh, okay. Well, I assume that putting on solar panels is better than being solar ready. But you're right.
Can we get?
We need to have consistency.
Yeah, just for the record, which
Yes.
is it going to be?
So, John, could you answer that question?
Yeah, the homes all have a minimum of 3 kilowatts installed.
Installed. They will be installed at
Yeah.
date of turnover.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Commissioner Castaneda.
I did want to point out that there is a discrepancy in the packet materials on the grading and hauling. The packet on page 26, paragraph H says there's no grading or hauling on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, but the draft code compliance certificate, which is attachment 3, paragraph 27, allows grading from 9 to 5 on Saturday. So I'm presuming that's not correct, but I just want to point out there's a discrepancy in the materials.
Yes, the condition of approval, number 27, was further refined by Public Works as we were working through the conditions, and that would be what's correct and recommended, which would allow grading between 9 and 5 on Saturday, but no dirt hauling on Saturday.
Okay,
So there's a Part A and Part B in number 27.
Right,
So it will allow them to do some construction, but not off-haul.
Okay, so grading will be allowed, okay. And I did have one more. Could you show me I think it's in the northeast area of the plot, the retaining walls that are going to exceed 6 feet? How is that going to work?
Yeah. So if you look at below Lot 1 on the picture you have in front of you here, due to the topography that's there now and the limited slopes that the fire department requires, those are the walls. So there's going to be dual walls. So they will be basically stacked on top of each other. So there'll be one wall, then a wall behind it to get the grades up. Along that road, below Lot 1, and then coming down the side of Spring Valley on the right side, not the house side, but the existing hillside. Those are where you're going to have those steeper walls.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Castaneda. Commissioner Roof?
A question for staff. Does the objective design standards that the city recently implemented apply for this project?
No, they don't, because this application was deemed complete before they were adopted. So we just go back to the design findings that were in effect before that.
Out of curiosity, would these plans be consistent with those standards, or has that exercise been done?
That exercise has not been done.
So it's up to us, like the old days.
But it still must be objective. You have to point to something about it that is an objective standard that we have.
Indeed. Totally get it. One other question. Where would the staging of vehicles be done? Particularly the 900 truckloads, that's a big number. And so what are the plans for trucks are going to park and when they're waiting to be loaded, et cetera, along Arundel Road, which is next to the school, or what?
Obviously, that's exactly how they'll do it. It's premature right now, but I will tell you that this site is big enough that they can stage on site. So they a lot of times when they do this type of truck hauling and everything, they time everything very well, so that as a as a truck pulls up, the bulldozer's ready to load it. Then that truck goes on, another one comes. Sometimes they come right away. Sometimes they come 5 minutes later. So, but it's usually timed pretty well. But there is a fair amount of room on this site that they should be able to keep everything on site as far as parking and everything.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
Good?
Good for the moment. Do you
Okay. I have a few more. Yeah, I have actually a couple on the below market rate element. One, I'm pretty sure I read it correctly, but the proposal is to get to the 15%, there's a 1 unit plus in lieu fees. Is that correct? And how much are the in lieu fees?
Yeah, they're subject to the 15%, which was in effect when the application was deemed complete. And so that comes out to be 1.35, and they're providing one below market rate unit, Lot 8, and they would be obligated to pay the in lieu fee for the 0.35.
Yes, and how much cash is that for the city?
We had a memo from our housing manager. Give us a moment and we'll pull that up.
Okay, hang on just a sec then. And actually, this might be for Rucha, so I may have to defer to her. But I'm a little confused in looking at the pack. There are 8 units. Some are labeled ADU, some are labeled JDU, some have one room that's an ADU and one room that's a JDU. Some have a fridge, some have a kitchenette, some don't have. And it feels like I don't recall that range of activity or that range of definition. So I just need to be reminded what qualifies, what's the minimum, and why are they all so different?
Let me get that in answer for you too. It depends on the size, but I don't remember what the size between a junior ADU and a full ADU is off the top of my head, but I need to go.
Actually, maybe let me be more helpful.
Okay.
Can you just quickly highlight the difference in requirements between the ADU and the JDU, just as a reminder, because I should remember, but I don't.
Okay. I'll let Rucha do that.
Thank you, Chair. So the there are no JADUs proposed, just to clarify, on this project. A JADU is something that is less than or up to 500 square feet. There are 8 ADUs proposed. Those are accessory dwelling units. And accessory dwelling units are greater than 500 square feet. So anything above 500 square feet can be categorized as a ADU. There is another differentiation between an ADU and JADUs, that a JADU can be created only from existing floor area. An ADU can be an addition and then converted into an accessory dwelling unit. So there are 2 differentiations. One is the floor area and another is the existing versus not existing floor area.
Okay, so one of the points so where I'm going with this is, I remember the discussion and a lot of conversation amongst the commission about what was a requirement for a proper ADU and a kitchenette, including, for example, I think a full-size refrigerator and other things were required. And they may be intended, but they're not, to my eye, reflected on the drawings.
We can work with the applicant to make it consistent during the building permit plan set. However, an ADU is something that has to function as a separate unit on its own. So there is a requirement for a kitchenette and certain requirements for refrigerator, storage, and counter size. So it has to meet the state law requirements and also our ADU ordinance. So as far as we have reviewed it, they seem consistent with the ADU requirements, but we can work with the nomenclature. I think there might be some discrepancies with the labeling because there's no JADU proposed. There are only ADUs proposed in this development.
Okay, well, more importantly, I'm glad to know that before the building permit is going to be issued, someone on staff will go through what is an ADU and do these units all have the features, and will they be constructed in a way to be consistent? That's great.
Definitely, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That will be taken care of.
Perfect.
And since I'm on the mic, I can, if I may respond to Commissioner Castaneda's first question. So thank you for allowing the time to do the research. So there were 14 units assumed in the housing element for this particular site, and 16 are proposed. So there are 2 more than what was assumed.
Maybe, sorry, this is one more ADU, but it is for the project team. I'm trying to just have an appreciation for, again, scale, the difference between what one of the homes that is not below market rate, order of magnitude sale price versus what the below market rate unit will be, and therefore, like, how many dollars difference would the market see between market rate and below market rate?
Low market's about a 20 to 25%, so it's a scale of about a quarter. It's a big scale.
Okay, so again, I'm not trying to pin you down, but just for my own clarification. So let's say the units are $1,000 a foot market, I don't know, and they're 2,800 feet.
They're 2.8 million.
Yeah, so you've got 2.8 million.
700,000 to 800,000.
800 less. Good. That's very helpful. Thank you for that. Commissioner Castaneda?
I do have one more question. I am impressed with the storm drainage provisions that you have, and with all of the different piping and bioswales and things throughout the system. Could you tell us about the maintenance of that? How much maintenance does this take, and who does that to keep these systems running?
Believe it or not, there's not a lot of maintenance to it, so I'll give you kind of an idea. The pipes are there that are going to be installed. First and foremost, everything is going to be concrete, steel when it comes to the area drains, stuff like that. The pipes themselves are all modern plastic pipes that have very big durability, and they're all oversized, so therefore they don't get clogged very easily. What will have to be maintained is the bioswales, that somebody will have a landscaper. So when somebody comes out to do landscaping, normal everyday landscaping, they're going to have to, pull out any trash that might have accumulated on the top surface of that bioswale. Obviously, some of the benches and stuff, there'll be some area drains. They're going to have to just make sure there's leaves and stuff removed, but it's normal everyday stuff. Everything that's going to be underground is going to be robust enough that it's not going to need much maintenance, and just sheerly by pure Mother Nature, as pipes are streaming downhill, if anything gets in them, the water carries it away. So it's pretty minimal, believe it or not. But it's going to be up to the HOA to hire a landscaper to maintain not only the landscape, but also some of that stuff that goes along with storm drainage.
Thank you.
In answer to the question about the partial fee,
Yes,
that
thank
would, it was estimated at $296,000.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. Commissioner Roof?
No more for me.
One last for me, and this is maybe for Lisa or Greg. Because since the density is just below 3, aside from, well, what is the small lot provision needed, and why change it from RS3 to 6? In other words, what would happen if we didn't do that? Who cares?
I'll just make it, this is my understanding, is they wouldn't be eligible to cluster the development to the small lot sizes. They'd have to conform with the 3 per acre in another way. Basically they have the 2 larger lots that are on the steep slopes. And I think that my understanding is they're taking advantage of that, and then but they do need the exception to create the small lots on the remainder of the 3+ acre parcel.
Okay,
and that's only available in the RS6 zone.
Right. That was a very helpful explanation, and not as clear until that point. So thank you. I'm complete. Commissioner Roof?
I'm good for now.
Okay, very good. Can I suggest we open up for public comment then? Very good. I do not have any public comments slips for anyone present here in the room, but let's just make another check. If you'd like to make a comment on this project, there are speaker forms in the back. And if you could bring them up here to the front. And at this point also, we'll open it up for those who might be joining remotely. And as just a quick reminder for those who might be joining remotely, the process we use is that right now we're going to turn on the raise hand function on Zoom. And we'll leave that on here for just a brief bit. If you'd like to speak, now is the time to raise your hand. And at the end of about 30 seconds or so, Lynette will take stock of all of those on the callers who have raised their hand, and then note that you're in the queue, and then turn off the raised hand function. So we'll give those callers who might want to make a comment just a minute. And if anyone is here in the room and you want to make a comment, please bring your slips up to the front at this time. Lynette, do we have hands raised?
We have one.
Okay, very good. If you could just bring it up to Lisa, that would be great. Thank you. Lynette, why don't we start with our caller online? And who's calling, please?
First hand raise is Matt Powers.
Good evening, Matt. Welcome. And the floor is yours, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for all of the information. So the one house that I'm concerned about is the 5 Spring Valley Way. As you go up Spring Valley Way, it's the only house on the left-hand side. And during the construction and all of that, I know that there's some, hillside falling that's going down, and about any type of retaining wall to minimize any of the construction that's going up on that area. If someone can maybe speak to that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. And is there a comment that either the applicant or staff could make in response?
So at the bottom, I know exactly which lot that they're talking about right here. There won't be an exact retaining wall per se, because all the grading basically just matches at that point down below, but all construction, everything has to stay on site. It's not allowed to go off site. There'll be strict measures. There'll be what's called a silt fence, which is a kind of like a filter looking fence, but it keeps the dirt from going beyond there. Even if the water goes through that fence that's there is there to filter that water. So everything's gonna be done as best as possible. This is very common construction practices to keep any debris and any water or any debris or any dirt from leaving the project site, so it won't affect the neighbors.
Thank you very much. And Lynette, just one more check. Did you have one other hand raised?
There are no more.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you just bring it up to Lisa? Sean Callan, you're up if you'd like to come on up to the microphone. Thank you for coming, and you've got 2 minutes, please.
My question is with the traffic management plan. Who's overseeing that? Who's running that? And when is that going to start? You talk about a 2-year project. When is that going to be involved with the 2-year project? When do you foresee this starting?
Thank you very much for your question. And again, is maybe someone could address that?
Best case scenario will be spring of 2025, and the traffic management plan would be ongoing throughout the whole project.
Thank you. Very good. All right, I have, so let's see. Frank Flores. Good evening, welcome, and you have 2 minutes.
Yes, my name is Frank Flores. I have the property there on number 10 Spring Valley Way, dead-end street there, which I probably have had the residence for 48 years. It was always known as a private street. There was 4 residents that lived on the street over the years. We did our private paving. I did the maintenance of sweeping everything down the street because the city didn't want to come up to pick up the debris in the gutters and what have you. So the stipulation was that I would clean the streets, bring them down to the end of Phelps there, and they would pick it up randomly. I was always told that it was a private street. The Spring Valley, the little history I have on Spring Valley is, at one time it was the Spring Valley Water Company, which is right up from the end of the street there. And you could see every winter when it does rain, you know why it's called Spring Valley Way. There's a natural spring in there, and that overflows with the runoff coming down the street. And with Mr. Sanchez, who sold the property to our developer here, if you all were to go by, either seeing is believing. The erosion that's coming down off that hill onto Spring Valley, our little dead-end street, is devastating. And the city itself, if you look at the records and their maintenance on the manhole, the sewage cover there, when that water comes down that street and the sewage that goes through that system underneath there, it pulls up that manhole cover. You see toilet paper, all kind of whatever, you know. And what's going to be done about all this? I mean, you got this big development. You're going to have all these trucks. It's a one-way street, one-way little street. Are they going to go down Spring Valley Way with all these trucks? Are they going to turn on my driveway to go up into the area there? We're really, that whole little area, the 4 little tenants, Matt Powers spoke about, what are we going to do? We're going to make sure that, you know, Just like to have some kind of clarity anyway.
Very good, thank you. And I, won't speak on behalf of the applicant, but I hope that tonight the question about the traffic management plan is something that you heard and you'll be able to look at when they publish it. All right, good. Thank you. Any other comment from the applicant?
That's the turnaround. There'll be a turnaround built onto the site because of the size of the site. So a turnaround will be on site. So no trucks will turn around on any of the properties. The erosion's been going on for many, many years. Part of the drainage plan is to prevent any future erosion. That was the way Lee and Braze designed it.
Great, thank you very much. The next card that I have is, I believe it's Robbie Moorhead. And then Niloufar Nosradi, you're on deck.
Hello, nice to meet everyone.
Hello, Robbie, welcome, and you have 2 minutes, please.
Okay. So one of the developers were saying that there was only 41 spaces, but I don't know how that's even possible with 9 homes in the. So I counted them up. There was only like 32. So I would like some more explanation, and wondering if they would provide more parking on the street, considering on Phelps Road there really isn't any parking. The other thing is I would like to talk about is I noticed on the plans there was a 6-inch, 2 6-inch vitrified clay pipes, and I am wondering if there is capacity in the pipes. Was there any sewer analysis for those pipes, considering they're just tying it in? And then also I'd like to ask, how is the trash pickup going to happen? There's no turnaround at the top, and so there's no plans to see how that is going to be achieved. And so those are the few questions I have. Actually, I have one last one, and it's the bioretention. There's a detail. Mr. Jim Toby over there was saying that it was going to percolate and Mother Nature was going to take care of it. But that can't be possible because visqueen is on the bottom of that bioretention, so it can't really percolate into the groundwater. And so that's not really the case. So those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you very much. Maybe I get some help from, or some guidance from staff. Are these questions that we should take on now? Are we okay to do that?
If the commission would like responses to those questions, you certainly may ask for them.
Well, I think that from my perspective, I think I'm comfortable with the answers, but we have a public member asking, and it just feels like since this is an important development that they should hear an answer. So it'd be great to get an answer.
Yeah. Thank you. Be happy to answer. I'll answer the parking. Sure. So the way the parking works is there are 4 spaces for each house automatically. On top of that, we have 5 more spaces spread out through the development. So that's where you get the 41 spaces from. 4 times 9 plus the 5 spaces. In terms of the bioretention, what it is yes, there is a plastic liner on the bottom of that there. We don't want to over-inundate the area right below it. We don't want to introduce so much groundwater that affects the neighbors. It's the planting that's inside the bioretention area that really is. That's where we're filtering it. That's where the water's going through. You're going to have about 3 or 4 feet of soil, plus you're going to have some rock at the bottom. That's that filter we're talking about. It's not intended to go into the soil beneath it because we don't want to impact the neighbors, but it is intended to go through that system and then go to the existing city system. And that's how we're taking care of that.
Great, thank you very much. There was a question also about sewer capacity, and maybe just any comment with regard to the design and connection with the city?
I believe we've done a sewer capacity analysis. We've worked with the city from day one on this. However, I can tell you right now that sewer pipes are very, very small. They're intended to be small purposely. And that's something we're going to work with specifically with the city and to make sure that it's going to be fine. But usually this small of a development, that size pipe can handle no problem.
Okay, and maybe you're implying that whatever the conclusion is will be signed off by the city.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's already been looked at, this project's already been looked at very thoroughly by the engineering department. We've been working with Grace Lee very carefully and all her staff members too. So they've seen these plans quite significantly.
Very good. And then the last question was with regard to Recology and trash pickup and being able to turn around their truck up the hill.
So we've actually worked with trash. We've already talked to Recology as part of this project. They're going to be able to use the driveways at the very, very top of the development to be able to turn around. They're going to use very small trucks. They've already admitted that that's the type of trucks they're going to use in this neighborhood. So it's already been looked at with Recology. They've already looked at it and said, yeah, we'll have no problems with it.
Very good. Well, thank you for helping our resident.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then I think we have our Nilufar Nosrati. Hopefully I got that right.
Yes.
And you have 2 minutes.
One of the questions was answered, was basically about the sewer system and how that has been reviewed and the design is going to be approved, reviewed and approved. The other question is, we're all on Phelps Road and all the surrounding areas, we're all single-family homes. And now I've heard the HOA. What are the HOA responsibilities for these units? It was kind of a surprise to me to hear that it'll be managed by an HOA.
Very good. Thank you.
Well, since I have to approve the CC&Rs for the HOA,
please.
What I usually see in this type of development is really for the common areas. The houses, unless I'm wrong on that, the houses are going to be owned by the property owners, and the common area is the responsibility of the HOA, and that includes the street, the bioswales, and the natural areas that are on the site.
Thank you. I believe that is all of the public comment, both here in council chambers, and we know we've concluded online. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to close public comment period.
I move that we close the public comment.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
And Chair Iacoponi?
Yes. Colleagues, it'd be good to get your thoughts on the project and any indication of where you are in support, or maybe more particularly if there are any of the elements that we're being asked to respond to tonight. If there are any specific issues that we still need to flag, this would be a good time to do it. Commissioner Roof?
Well, I'm generally supportive of the project, but my biggest so first I'll jump to my one concern, and then perhaps we can work through some of the other elements that we're charged with approving. But the concern I have is with the interface with Arguello Park, and to make this community well interfaced with the park. And as I alluded previously, to ensure that bicycle and pedestrian access is good. With the road being paved, which is a great thing, I think, for fire safety, there will be kids with bicycles and pedestrians who might like to be able to do a loop that would include going through the development, and so want to make sure, maybe the city staff can reassure me if this is the case, or we can make it a condition or something, but that there be at the top where there'll be a gate to prevent vehicle transit, if there would be a way for pedestrians and bicycles to get through there. And at the bottom, it's a road. If it's a private drive, if it says private road, that I think would dissuade most people from going up it. So to have some indication that it is a thoroughfare, because the way that it connects to to the road going through Aguilo Park, it's natural to have that, to have a little bit of access there. And, there could be some tendency of the people who live there maybe not to prefer to have a lot of people going through, but it's nice to have people be able to walk the streets of the city. So I guess so there is sort of a question for staff. Maybe my concerns are already part of the plan, or maybe we can make sure they are, if my fellow commissioners agree. So, Chair, if we could maybe ask the staff for clarification on those.
Sure. Can you phrase your question tighter, just a little tighter, so that maybe one of the staff members could either give you a yes or no, or if you have a way to propose that you would want to adjust the conditions of approval so that it meets your concern, one of those two things, if that works for you?
Yes.
All right, great.
Will there be a portal at the top for public access of the road, and will there at the bottom, will the signage be conducive to letting pedestrians and bicyclists have access?
To my understanding, the gate at the top has not been designed yet, but it's been clear that it would allow pedestrian and bicycle access. I think we can add a condition to that effect to make sure it's designed in a way to allow the bicycle and pedestrian. And by the same token, I don't think the signage at the bottom has been completely thought out. And again, we can add a condition to the effect that makes it clear that pedestrians are allowed.
Good. That would satisfy my concern on this one. If my fellow commissioners agree, I guess it would have to be part of the motion.
Good, thank you. And we'll when we come to the specific motion, we can check the language that would go in there. Okay. All right, good. Anything else?
There were so many, the big package to be approving, and I thought that the scale of the project was quite favorable for the community. It's giving us the additional housing, yet it's compatible with the neighborhood, the consistent size of the units. It's not as much as we love to have new housing, it's not oversized for the site. So I really appreciate that, and I think the neighborhood should be pleased that we've got something that fits the site really well. The natural state issue that we have to allow for, We've seen this before, where sometimes the specifics of the site, the slope especially, sort of necessitates an exception to the normal natural state rule, and so I'm comfortable with the rationale to grant that, so I'm good with that. The design of the buildings looks nice to me. Our favorite thing is the right amount of articulation, and it looks good without being overly cluttered. I thought they were quite pleasant. I think they're going to be beautiful homes, kind of overlooking the valley and to the south. So I don't have concern with the design. I'm happy that there are ADUs incorporated to increase the housing stock. It's just what we want, is to build that additional optionality in. I don't have other big issues to raise at the moment. I'll see if your questions bring anything additional, but for me, this is what I have.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Castaneda.
I'm also generally supportive of the project. I very much like the colors and the materials that are being used. I think they're going to blend into the area and into the natural features of the area very well, especially with the surrounding park. So I think that's very good. I think the fire measures are good, and the emergency access road, I think, is needed. I'm always favoring removal of eucalyptus trees. I like that it's going to be solar and there are green standards and that the utilities will be underground. I also think there are very good conditions for building. So, you know, there's a bond for grading. Grading is difficult in this situation. And then part of that, of course, is required by the fire department. I like the stormwater management plan. And I think the tree removal season constraints are reasonable, as well as the removal of the trees. I mean, we're changing this from something that was improperly labeled as open space to residential, and it's appropriate that these trees are removed and the ones being planted are of a good size. So yeah, so I'm generally approving.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before my comments, and this might put Rucha on the spot for just a second, were you able to find anything about 18 units in this 3 acres in actuality versus what we'd hoped to get? I have that right? 9 and 8, 17 units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry, what was, may I ask?
The question earlier was, we have a RENA. RENA looked at possible construction. We're going to have 17 new units, which is a great addition. And does that keep us on pace with our most recent housing element?
Yes, so for this particular site, there were 14 units assumed, and this project is proposing 16 units.
Great, thank you. I think for me that is, in addition to the comments from my colleagues, you know, one of the things that I'm pleased about, these are attractive homes, it's a nice community. I am always in favor of winding streets. I think the notion of the step-back retaining walls will be attractive. The combination of woodland and grassland. It'll certainly be different for the people who have lived there for many years. It will look quite different, but I think as it matures, let's say 6 and 8 years on, it should, I'm hopeful, the way it's designed, grow in nicely. So, and I think, therefore, the combination of attractive housing, which we desperately need, including ADUs and the presence of a below market rate unit, is a good thing. And then with regard to the comments that Commissioner Roof was making, below market rate, no issues there. Protected tree removal, I'm pleased that we're putting quite a number of trees back, including some valley oaks and some coast lives. You know, the natural state reduction, I appreciate the explanation on that. Dirt haul, 4 months is a lot better than 22 months, so we'll pull the Band-Aid off and get that work done once it starts. And the design review is good in my mind as well. And then you know, I think probably the important thing, we're only making a recommendation, but that's on CEQA. And I did not see anything in the recommendations for mitigation that caused me any concern, and therefore feel comfortable in being able to make that recommendation to City Council. So with that, I'm also supportive of the project and the requests being made for us tonight. And therefore, if one of my colleagues would, yes, Tricia, is there a?
Yes, a couple of things. We recommend that you take number 2 first.
Good, thank you.
On the environmental document. And then I have some wording for adding 2 conditions per Commissioner Roof. First of all, the gate for the emergency vehicle access shall be designed to allow pedestrian and bicycle access and shall meet all fire department requirements. And then the other condition would be signage at the entrance to the project on Spring Valley Way shall indicate pedestrian bike access is allowed.
That sounds great.
Good ads, thank you. And so we'll take these in turn, please. You want to make a motion on number 2?
Okay, I move that the Planning and Transportation Commission adopt the resolution recommending the City Council certify the mitigated negative declaration and adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan.
I'll second.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
Chair Iacoponi?
Yes.
I'll move for number 1. Is that what? I move approval of the design review certificate, conditional use permit for small lot development, below market rate housing plan, vesting subdivision map, tree removal permit, natural state reduction request, and grading and dirt haul certificate, subject to the conditions listed in the certificate for the development of 9 single-family homes at 308 Phelps Road, with findings and conditions in the code compliance certificate, with the additional condition as read by the staff for the gate designed to allow pedestrian and bike access and signage at the entrance to indicate the same. So using the wording that that the staff proposed. What was that? 2 conditions. That's divided into 2 conditions.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
And Chair Iacoponi?
Yes. And then I will move that the Planning and Transportation Commission adopt the resolution recommending the City Council approve the general plan amendment to single-family up to 6 dwelling units per acre and an ordinance rezoning the site to RS6 Hillside Overlay Zone.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
Chair Iacoponi?
Yes. As always, I'd like to thank the neighbors for their input over the period, and you have the applicant here, and hopefully you'll get to know them, and they'll get to know you over the course of the project. And I wish the applicant well in their project development and look forward to a new addition to our community. That brings us to public hearing item 6B, consideration of proposed amendments to the San Carlos Municipal Code, Title 18 zoning, sections 18.07 industrial districts, 18.30 use permits, and adding a new section 18.14A Northeast Area Overlay District. So we have a presentation from staff.
Yes, good evening, Chair Iacoponi and Commissioners. Tonight, I will be making this presentation before you and those that are watching at home. I'm Lisa Porras. I serve as a planning manager for the city's Advanced Planning Division, and tonight I'm joined by Sujudi Hawk, who is the project manager for the Northeast Area Specific Plan, Lisa Costa-Sanders, and of course, our city attorney. So this agenda item before you this evening is to review proposed zoning ordinance amendments that would establish a new overlay district for the Northeast area. And let's see. So tonight, staff is going to be presenting why this item is being recommended, the geographic area that it would apply to, what types of projects would be subject to these new requirements, how long the new requirements are intended to be in place, and describe the code sections proposed for amendments, and then we'll also cover the next steps in the process. So staff is recommending to amend the zoning ordinance to require conditional use permits for projects located in the San Carlos's Northeast area. As the commission may recall, a development moratorium in the Northeast area has been in place since April 2022, and that is set to expire in the next couple of months. So this development moratorium was to halt new development applications in order to allow time to prepare and adopt a new Northeast area specific plan. And that Northeast area specific plan is expected to be completed in the first quarter of 2025. The purpose of the overlay district is to provide for additional oversight and discretion for projects in the Northeast area to ensure that there's orderly development, and also to ensure conformance with plans or policies that are adopted by the City Council, including the City Council strategic plan and objectives for the Northeast area. So since April 2022, no applications were able to be submitted in the Northeast area. However, with this proposal, the idea is that applications can be submitted, but would need to apply for a conditional use permit in addition to all applicable permit requirements that are already in place. So this is the boundary of the proposed Northeast area, and as the commission may see, that this proposed boundary, which is outlined in the red dotted line, is exactly the same boundaries as the Northeast area specific plan, which includes a city limit line in the north, adjacent to the city of Belmont, and along Old County Road to the west, and along Highway 101 to the east, and then wrapping around the industrial uses, that juxtaposition between industrial uses and the single-family area. It does not include the single-family area. So the proposed conditional use permit requirement is intended to apply to lot line adjustments and subdivisions, design review for new development or additions, projects that would already require a use permit, which again is a bit redundant, but anything that would require a temporary use permit or a minor use permit would be elevated to conditional use permit, subject to the review of the Planning Commission. And then for projects that apply for a plan development, a development agreement, a general plan, or zoning amendment, all those would be required to have a conditional use permit application as well. And then anything in the zoning ordinance that requires use permits already would remain in effect. Where the use permit would not apply would be to any projects approved before April 25th, 2022. Any projects seeking a sign permit would be exempt from this, as would minor exterior changes to buildings, any requests for solar equipment, as well as building permits for interior improvements, any type of ordinary maintenance that would be required for the site or the building, as well as protected tree removal permits. And then any applications that already have a use permit and would like to do any minor modifications, those would be exempt from this use permit requirement. So if adopted, the Northeast Area Overlay District and its conditional use permit requirement would only be in place until the Northeast Area Specific Plan is adopted, which again is anticipated in early 2025. And then after the Northeast Area Specific Plan is adopted, this overlay district would be repealed. And so to establish this overlay district and the conditional use permit requirements, 3 sections of the municipal code would need to be amended. This includes section 18.07.020, land use regulations for the industrial districts. The recommended modification is simply language to specify that a use permit may be required, and direct the reader to the new code section, which is down at the bottom of the screen, 1814A, which would have more information about that. And then section 18.30.060, which are the required findings for any use permits, is recommended for amendment, whereby it would establish a new finding. And I'll go ahead and read the new finding, though it is in the packet and in the attachment. This new finding would read that the use permit approval would need to be consistent with the finding that the design, location, site, size, and operating characteristics of the proposed activity are compatible with the existing and reasonable foreseeable land uses as contemplated in the development of the Northeast Area Specific Plan as set forth in City Council Resolution 2023-032. And this is the resolution that speaks to and adopts the City Council Strategic Plan, which references the Northeast Area Specific Plan. And then lastly, we would establish a new section, again, 1814A, which would set forth what types of projects, like I just mentioned, would be subject to the use permit, and also which ones would not. So to conclude, staff is recommending that the commission adopt a resolution recommending the council adopt these changes to the zoning ordinance. The next steps would include a presentation to the City Council, essentially the first reading of the ordinance on February 26th. The second reading of the ordinance would be scheduled for March 11th, and then if approved, these new regulations would go into effect on April 11th, 2024, and again lasting until the Northeast Area Specific Plan is adopted. So here is the formal motion, should you choose to make it, and both myself, Lisa, Judy, and Greg are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Commissioners, questions for staff? Commissioner Roof?
Are there any known impacts to the property owners' plans in the next year? I mean, presumably they are waiting for the moratorium to be lifted, and they might be ready to submit an application. Often they'll interface with the staff ahead of time. So I'm curious if we know that suddenly this is going to throw a monkey wrench into somebody's plans. I'd like to be able to weigh the impact against the obvious benefits of having some more time for the city.
If I may, can I defer? I'd like to ask Lisa Costa Sanders, because Lisa's, I think, most in contact with any proposed projects, I think.
Yeah, so I don't have specific information on smaller scale projects, but I know there's at least 2 larger scale developments that are interested in proceeding, and they're watching very closely the progress of the specific plan. So I think they may be interested in submitting for a planned development permit application, and that would come with an associated environmental review as well. Those applications typically take 8 months to a year to process, and so it does seem reasonable to allow them to process concurrently with this next step, since we have that basis of, you know, what the land uses would be allowed, and we can process it concurrently as the plan develops.
That's a very useful answer. Thank you.
Lisa, this, maybe you've answered it, so may I be asking the same thing in a different way. Are there any applications that have been in since April 25, 2022 that we've been sitting on, and this is sort of sit on it more?
No, I'm not aware of any active applications that have been submitted. I believe there's one building that was doing some facade improvements. I'm trying to think of the address. It's right across from 301, but it's even. Anyhow, they were able to do a lot of the improvements they were hoping to do, and so they may want to do some more improvements to the building, and we would simply take that forward then if it was more expansive than just some minor facade changes. We would need to take that forward as a use permit then if it was a more major modification.
Okay.
And then that finding for the use permit would be, is it consistent with the plan? And then we can look to where the plan is at that time.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Castaneda?
Could the owners expand as long as they're not exceeding the existing FAR regulations?
So this question pertains to the non-conforming uses and structures section of the zoning ordinance, which does have provisions for uses to be expanded, provided that, say, for example, Well, let me go back and make sure I understand your question. Is your question about a non-conforming use or an existing use?
Existing use.
An existing use. Any uses that are existing could be expanded. However, if they need a design review permit, they're going to need a conditional use permit as well under this proposal. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions. I think we should move it to one more? Yeah, one more question,
One more
please.
question. The moratorium had an end date, but this requirement seems to be indefinite with a hopeful statement about early 2025. I'm wondering if it might, to enable business planning, to have an expiration date or something a little more firm than early 2025. And I don't think there's any, that probably doesn't hold any weight, really.
That's a good question, Commissioner Roof. However, the way that I would respond is that staff wouldn't want to establish a repeal date at this time. Because if we did, it might need to be changed if the timeline for the adoption of the Northeast Specific Plan either moves faster or a little bit slower. So it's a little bit of a harder target to get exactly right. One of the things that staff could do in parallel with adoption of the Northeast Area Specific Plan is bring forth the request to repeal this exactly at the same time. So that's something that we could look into, but otherwise I think it would be very difficult to pinpoint an exact date for the repeal of this overlay district. Just because of the timing of the Northeast Specific Plan, it could be a little bit fluid.
Discuss.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a dance with the specific plan and then the new zoning code that goes with the specific plan and the repealing of this, and we're going to coordinate all those when the time comes.
Is it, maybe this is, well, is it possible to actually to write into this particular change that it is intended to expire on adoption of the Northeast Plan, just as part of the language of it?
Well, I think our recommendation is to not do that, but if, I think putting it in the record that that's the intention, I think it covers that base if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I am. I think it's part of a public hearing. We've expressed, good views on it. We understand what the intent is. Or at least that's where I would be.
I'll reserve judgment until after the public comment and we have a chance to have our
deliberation. Great, thank you. So I have one speaker card here, Paul Casperson, and for those who are might be following along remotely, the next 30, 45 seconds, the raise hand function will be turned on Zoom, and this is your opportunity, if you would like to speak, to raise your hand, and at the appropriate time, Lynette will turn off the raise hand function, capture your names, and we'll queue you up for public comment. But I think we'll first hear from Paul Casperson. Thank you. Welcome. And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Paul Casperson, representing CellLink Corporation, 610 Quarry Road. So we make critical components for electrical vehicles. And so we are at the final stages of receiving our $360 million Department of Energy loan. And that's part of the Investing in America agenda to onshore and reshore domestic manufacturing for clean energy and transportation future. So I just wanted to include that information. That's the background of us. That's our company. That's kind of what we're doing. So some of the questions, and I mentioned, I believe, one of these last time, but If the plan is approved, are the existing businesses able to carry out their existing uses? So for instance, we do light manufacturing. We just want to ensure that we'd be able to continue our light manufacturing. Tonight actually confused me a little bit more. I'm not sure if we would have to file for a conditional use permit to continue our light manufacturing. So that was one question. Another is, will the noise ordinances be changed in that area? We currently adhere to the noise ordinance in the area, but we would like to have clarity on if the noise ordinances would be changing. And mentioned just now in this presentation, it was about like things like facade upgrades and whatnot would not require a conditional use permit, but that was one of our questions, is that would we be able to improve the appearance of our building? We have been denied several times, not allowed to upgrade our facade and the appearance of our building. So it was a little confusing tonight again. So we would like clarity on that. And those are the items I wanted to cover. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I think maybe if I could just ask staff to comment on those 3 points. I think your existing use, noise, and appearance changes, and maybe it would be best to do it in the interim while this interim zoning is in place versus what might come out of the Northeast plan. Okay, if kind of 2 different time frames, would you be good to do that? Thanks, Lisa.
So as part of this proposal, any business that's currently running and in operations will continue to do so. None of the business needs to come forth and ask for a special permit. Whatever's under operation now may continue. With respect to the noise, the questions about changes to the noise ordinance standard, this proposal tonight does not offer any. I think maybe the question may be thinking about the Northeast area specific plan and the standards that it could possibly contain once it evolves. As of right now, we're still trying to pin down a preferred land use option, but those are things that the specific plan could look at. I don't think we have an answer yet as if we're offering any proposed changes to the noise ordinance. And with respect to minor upgrades to facades, again, now that the moratorium is expiring, applicants can come forward and propose modifications to the site and building, and we can take a look and see if those are more substantial or are minor. If they are minor, there would there would be no need for a conditional use permit. If it's determined that they're significant, then those projects would require a use permit for review.
Right, thanks for clarifying, Lisa, and hopefully that gives you answers you can use.
Sure. May I ask one more? It's a follow-up.
Can you please come up to the dais?
What is that time frame of the limbo period?
The proposed, oh, go ahead, Greg.
Well, it's my understanding is, and maybe this is really for you, Lisa, but the specific plan's not going to come back until probably a year from now in the first quarter of 2025.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very good, thank you. Lynette, can I check with you, were there hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
Very good. And then we have one more speaker here in the audience, Carlos Hernandez. Good evening and welcome in 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you. Very quick question, just on the overlay. You mentioned that if we want to continue to do the business we do and we want to expand, we have to apply for a potential revision on the use of land. So if we want to expand a little bit on our building and have a better use of the land and maybe not build construction, but have the foundation preparing for the future, we still have to go through that process.
I think
please.
the answer is going to be, it's possible if it was considered an expansion of use that was more than minor. Because that's the line we're trying to create, that something that would be considered a major expansion, like a new wing on your building, or a change in what you're doing, that maybe this is hypothetical, but going in a new line of business or something, and it creates more intensity of use on your site. Those are the things we'll be looking at if you applied.
Okay. Perfect. That's clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have no more public comments here in the council chambers and none online, so I'd entertain a motion to close public comment.
I move that we...
One more thing before you close the public comment, I just wanted to mention that it was brought to my attention that there was inadvertently one of the proposed changes to the ordinance, I think one of the code sections 18.07, which in our zoning ordinance is a chart that has the approved uses in different zoning districts. What we added to that was a cross-reference to the new 18.14A overlay district. So that was inadvertently not included in your packet, but the change is really insignificant because it just ties the industrial district zoning table to the changes that are proposed for tonight.
Good. Thanks for clarifying.
I think we're trying to show you, just give you an example of what that looks like. Because it literally just references 18.14A in a column on a chart for the zoning district. Yeah, we should put.
Well, I would like to move that we close the public comment.
First, we just want to put it on the screen before we close the public comment.
Okay,
and then I'd ask the chair
I'll hold my motion
to see if there's any further public comment on that. I imagine there won't be because it's pretty clear what's happening. But once they see this. So this is 18.07, and if you scroll down, there's no changes in it. Oh, can you? It's not showing. Oh, well, where those little red lines are, where it's on the right-hand column, it says CSCMC 18.14A. That's the change in that for far right column. It repeats all the way down. Where we
exactly, and so you can see that for all of these uses, it has this note, like look at note number 11 and then see the new section. And I'm just going to scroll down, pardon my scroll, but I am going to scroll down to number 11. And so this is new language right here. A conditional use permit may be required if located in the Northeast Area Overlay District. See section 18.14A. And these are the only modifications being proposed to 18.07 O2O land use regulations for industrial districts.
So this is just tying the overlay into the industrial district zoning, so they're consistent.
Good, thank you for the clarification. Let me see here in the room if that prompts any further question. And for those who might be following at home, we'll again open up the raise hand function here for a very brief period. And if this new information prompts a question, can you please raise your hand at this time? And Lynette, have anyone indicated they'd like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. I think with that, then we can take a motion to close public comment.
I move that we close public comment.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
And Chair Iacopone?
Yes. Commissioners, maybe Commissioner Roof, you had raised a point, so if you'd like to, if you're satisfied, great. If you would like to make a recommendation in addition, please share.
Well, I am somewhat concerned about the open-ended nature of this. Totally understand that there's a lot of work to be done on the Northeast plan, and it's uncertain exactly when that will be finished. But on the other hand, businesses that are planning large-scale projects need some certainty in the timing of things going forward, and so I wonder whether it's possible to have a sunset clause of some sort, even if it's a conservative one. This isn't a make or break idea for me, but none of us like to have a absolute deadline imposed on us. But on the other hand, having it be totally open to me seems a little doesn't provide a nice environment for our businesses.
Through the chair, I have a suggestion, which I think I remember doing this in the past. Yeah, we really don't have the certainty, and another layer of uncertainty is it's possible that, maybe not likely, but possible that the plan won't be approved too. So my suggestion is that we bring this back to you for a check-in review about the status of the specific plan. And if there is a need to do what you're suggesting, we do that when we're closer to the finish line rather than now when we don't really know when that might be. Because if we get closer to the finish line and we're more confident on a date, then we could do a simple repeal ordinance date and incorporate that into the code. But I just right now I think we don't have enough information when it's going to happen, and so staff therefore is not comfortable with putting a set date in the ordinance for you.
Okay, I can live with that. I do appreciate that there's at least an allusion to a time frame there, and nothing is ever permanent. The city could always have extensions or not, so nothing is ever going to be entirely certain. But so I can live with this.
So specifically, I think City Attorney was proposing to add a piece of language, and I'm not sure if you meant it in the motion, in the approval, or just as a set of the meeting notes.
I think it'd be just direction to staff to bring it back to you and maybe in the fall of next year for a status report and see where things stand.
Okay, good. So I would be.
Oh, this year, excuse me.
This year, yeah. Fall of 24, yeah.
See, that's what I mean.
Yeah, okay, good. If I could just add it on to, or think about your comments. So one takeaway that I had was that just because there is, well, the good news is we're moving out of a moratorium and now opening back up the opportunity for development. The string is that it will may require a conditional use permit. And if a business were to come before us with a request for a conditional use permit, it would be our job, I think, as Lisa pointed out, to then, or Greg, to judge the request against the state of the plan at that time, and therefore, rather than a no-go, it's a go if there's likely no conflict, and maybe that's not much clarity, but it's much clearer than it is today. So, I think for me, the combination of those two things feels okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's better than a new moratorium, even if that, I don't know if that's possible or not, but this is better than that.
Thank you. Commissioner Castaneda.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that the moratorium is going away, so I think this is a reasonable solution. I mean, would it be possible if we can't have a date, a certain date, could we have one and then say that subject to the completion of the plan and perhaps give an extension, a 3-month extension or something? So, or does that not make any sense?
I think we're still with our recommendation only because since an ordinance is essentially a new law in the city, if we have ambiguity in the law, it makes it hard to enforce a law. So it also throws in a layer of uncertainty when people are interpreting the law. I mean, it may be somebody's making a decision and they're knowing that this plan is working through the process. They might decide to wait until the process is complete before they make an application, or they might say, oh, I'm not really making a significant change, so I'm comfortable with the overlay. And then whatever happens in the future, they have a use permit, so they have the right to do that use. It runs with the land, and if they want to make a change based upon whatever the plan, specific plan might be for the Northeast area in the future, they'll still be able to do that based upon those rules with their property.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, okay, good. And I don't actually have anything to add other than maybe picking up on council's suggestion that we request, direct staff that before the end of the third quarter to, at a Planning and Transportation Commission meeting, to please check in on the status of the Northeast area specific plan with the purpose of reviewing whether any adjustment to this is warranted. Okay. And therefore, with that, I would move that the Planning and Transportation Commission adopt a resolution recommending that City Council introduce an ordinance amending the San Carlos Municipal Code, Title 18 Zoning, Sections 18.07 Industrial Districts, 18.30 Use Permits, and adding a new section 18.14A Northeast Overlay District. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Castaneda?
Yes.
Commissioner Roof?
Yes.
And Chair Iacoponi?
Yes. Thank you, colleagues, for a good discussion. Now, item number 7, reports, correspondence, and general information. 7A, reports on recent City Council actions.
None this evening.
Good, thank you. Planning and Transportation Commission comments or reports.
Just a quick one. We had the first meeting of the Centennial Committee, and it's going to be fun. It's a wonderful group of people with some very good ideas.
Great, thank you for sharing. Commissioner Roof? None. Very good. 7C, correspondence.
Yes, I just wanted to share for the record that staff did respond to the Commission's request for somewhat of a projection or forecast of anticipated projects for the first half of 2024. And staff had emailed the Commission with this information earlier today. And I would like to share that out loud. So there are 6 projects that we believe will be coming before you over the next 6 months. The first is a revision to design review for exterior changes to the approved life science buildings at 642 Quarry. There's also the draft EIR hearing for the Alexandria campus development at 987 Commercial Street. This is no action, just to receive public comments on the draft EIR. The third is to consider entitlements and recommendation to City Council for a new life science buildings, plural, at 789 Old County Road. Also, consideration of a townhouse development project at 1524 Cherry Street. Also, consideration of mixed use and multifamily objective design standards. This would be a recommendation to council. We believe we're going to be able to bring something forward over the next 6 months. And then last for planning would be an evaluation report for single family objective design standards, though that's tentative. And then we also, because we are now the Planning and Transportation Commission, I did get some projects from Public Works. And one of the projects coming before you will be a traffic signal master plan, a transportation impact analysis guidelines, safe routes to school improvements project at Arroyo Avenue and Chestnut Street, a traffic circle proposed at Crestview and Edmonds, and then a new crosswalk and other enhancements at Industrial and Tanklage. These are all provided to the commission over email, but I did want to read that into the record as part of your correspondence. And
Lisa, could you just clarify the item 6 from your staff regarding single-family objective design?
Standards evaluation report?
Yeah.
May I ask Rucha to answer that?
The question was to clarify the item.
Yes, please. Could you just clarify what we will be expecting when we have that session?
It will be a report for the single-family objective design standards since adoption. That was December 13th. So we anticipate reporting about the number of projects we have reviewed and the time that it has taken to review these projects. So that is the basic items for the report that will be before you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa. And then D, planning staff comments, reports, and updates of current projects.
Yes, I would just like to share that your next regular meeting on Tuesday, February the 20th, is scheduled for a Tuesday because of the holiday. However, at this time, there are no items, so there is a chance that that next meeting could be canceled, in which case, after that, the next meeting of the Planning and Transportation Commission is scheduled for Monday, March 4th. I would also like to share that staff had forwarded the commission with a training opportunity. This is an overview of new housing laws that is being organized and sponsored by the 21 Elements organization, the 21 Elements cities and county of San Mateo County. They often provide such training. So there is one coming up on housing laws if you're interested, and because this is being sponsored, or an event that is not sponsored by the city, the commission can go, and there can be more than 2 going or more than 3. You all can go. Just, we always recommend not sit next to each other. And then lastly, I did have a short announcement to make that I am going to be stepping down from being the primary liaison to the Planning Commission. I'm not stepping away from the city, but just from my duties here. And in my place will be Andrea Martisic. However, I will be back up from time to time, and maybe I'll see you more frequently on the other at the podium. But I just wanted to give that announcement. So, but the next commission meeting that we have, Andrea will be taking my place. But it's been a pleasure. I have done this for 11 years, so I'm ready to hand over the reins to give someone else a chance to do that. But I will be obviously stepping in, from time to time because, like all of us, sometimes we're out or we have vacations or other things come up. So I just won't be here as frequently. So I thought I'd let you know. But it's been a great joy and a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed being here with you up on the dais. We have one more item before we close.
I know this is probably now for B, but just to respond to that from my perspective, it's not quite been 6 years, but almost 6 years that we've worked together, and it's been a pleasure in your professionalism and the way you lead the staff. It makes our job so easy, and the city just works so well. So thank you for all of your contribution. Amazing.
Thank you.
And I'll echo those comments that Will put. I feel the same.
Absolutely. We'll miss you.
And now for item 8, public comment. I don't have any speaker cards here, but public comment is limited to items not on the agenda. The commission may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed as allowed by the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54954.2. However, the commission's general policy is to refer items to staff for attention or have a matter placed on a future commission agenda for a more comprehensive action or report. So at this time, the hand raise function is enabled, and we'll give everyone who might be following along a brief window to raise your hand, at which time Lynette will record who would like to speak. And Lynette, do you see any raised hands?
There are no hands raised.
Very good, thank you. And I see no raised hands here, so therefore I would say I'd entertain a motion to close the public comment period.
I move that we close public comment.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Castaneda.
Yes.
Commissioner Roof.
Yes.
And Chair Iacoponi.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.